Welcome to the Many Figures Of, the show in which we go over the action figure history of Transformer characters. There's a character I've been wanting to do, and Valentin Ventilla has also been wanting me to do them. I'm just struggling to figure out, how do I introduce this certain guy?
You can call me Lockdown. Autobots, Decepticons, like little children, always fighting. I've got to clean it up.
I mean, truth be told, he probably introduced himself better than I ever could. Transformers Animated was one of the first Transformers shows I ever saw as a kid. It really is the reason why I love so many different aspects of Transformers, the lore, the mythology, the characters, and it helps that they had so many amazing original characters. Characters like Bulkhead, and especially Lockdown. Lockdown is a bounty hunter. He is not in it for the Autobots or the Decepticons, he works for whoever pays him more. As time's gone on, he is still one of the major breakout characters from Animated. Really, him and Bulkhead have saturated every other form of Transformers. They got into IDW, they got into video games, and for Lockdown, he made it into the movies. Of course, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Talking about his very first figure ever, we have to go to the year 2008, in which we would go to the first wave of Transformers Animated Deluxes and get Lockdown. Lockdown had one mission statement: let's get as tall a figure as possible in the deluxe price point. Lockdown stands taller than many of the Voyagers in Animated, and nowadays he stands taller than some leader class figures. You could have gotten this guy for the price of a Bumblebee or a Prowl back in the day, and that was an awesome introduction to Lockdown. It helps that his show character was so charismatic, but even if you didn't watch the show, it was hard to dislike this guy. He was massive, his articulation was great, his transformation was intuitive, vehicle mode looked amazing, his hook hand made him unique. He came with an EMP generator weapon that he could then hand over to Ratchet. The only issue you can really hit this figure with is his hands. There was some type of misassembly at the factory, and the hand cannot fold all the way down Lockdown's arm, meaning that it's always going to be at a right angle to the body. If you try to force it down, you will break the hand. That's just the reality here. But when that is the only issue you can possibly dig up about this figure, it really sings just how brilliant it was. Of course, when you have a mold that good, you don't just let it sit there, you make blazing Lockdown. This Lockdown has a little bit of a Hellfire yellow effect, and instead of coming with a hook, he comes with the chainsaw that Lockdown would sometimes turn his hand into in the show. You had the American version, you had the Takara Tomy version that went for a little bit more of a subtle paint job, still looked very solid, and a little bit later in 2008, you would have had Stealth Lockdown, translucent smoky plastic to make it look like Lockdown had become invisible. This figure is very prone to breaking. Of course, 2008 was not all sunshine and roses. You see, you've also would have had the Activator Lockdown, which was a gimmick toy, I will grant you, but the other Activators tended to be really clever and engaging. Lockdown here was really rough, had a hard time even staying together. Of course, you did get a repaint into Bandit Lockdown. In 2009, we got the Bumper Battlers Lockdown. Another gimmick Lockdown. The idea was you would roll these cars back, they'd shoot forward, hit something, and then the robot mode would pop up the roof. I actually kind of like how this figure looks, I won't lie. In 2010, over in Japan, we got a couple of new versions of Animated Lockdown. There was the Fated Showdown 2-pack with the Lockdown and Ratchet. Both of these were just really well-painted new versions of those original deluxes. Alongside that, we would have had the Animated Super Collection Volume 1 multi-pack that would have gotten you a better paint job on Activator Lockdown. The greens do work better here. I'm still just not a big fan of the figure. But those weren't the big talking points of 2010 for Lockdown. What was even more impressive is he broke into a new universe. Revenge the Fallen had Deluxe Lockdown, and I'll be honest, I think this is the best Lockdown they've ever made. It's essentially the animated guy, similar car mode, same proportions, the color layout is more or less identical, but because it's now a movie version, it could also slot well into an IDW, or potentially even an expanded Generation 1 shelf. This figure is amazing. It's actually taller than animated Lockdown, in spite of still just being a deluxe. The transformation's a little bit more complicated, but it doesn't have the issue with the hand. The hook looks more menacing. This is a beautiful, beautiful figure, and it also marked Lockdown as the first animated original character to go into a different universe. Lugnut and Bulkhead would eventually spread out too, but Lockdown was already pegged as the superstar. Furthering that point, the robot-powered machines, the RPMs, the Revenge of the Fallen gimmick toy line, included a Lockdown figure, meaning there were now two Bayverse versions of him. RPM eventually led into Speed Stars, and there we would get an entirely new version of Lockdown. I actually enjoy how this one looks a little bit more. In 2011, we got the Speed Stars Lockdown for Dark of the Moon. This was essentially just a repaint of the original RPM Lockdown, but the colors were a lot more striking here. In 2012, he was put into the Botshots toy line. You would have had the original figure. 2013, you would have had a new version, kind of inspired by Blazing Lockdown. In 2014, Age of Extinction came out, and Lockdown was not just going to be a character in the toy line, he was now the main villain of the entire film, and he was given countless toys. The first one was, of course, Deluxe Lockdown. Unfortunately, we didn't keep the gimmick of Lockdown always being tall. Despite being massive in the movie, here he's actually a pretty short deluxe. His robot mode is very, very kibble heavy, transformation's a bit complicated, but there are still some nice hits of paint, and I do like the fact that his rifle can be mounted on the top of his head to recreate his Cybertronian sniper rifle face in the movie. It's a cool look, not the best Lockdown, but hey, interesting enough. This same deluxe would be released in Japan with a much better paint job. Of course, being the main bad guy of Age of Extinction, Lockdown got his fair share of gimmick figures. You get the Flip and Change Lockdown, which, all things considered, is actually pretty good looking and is one of the only figures to include his battle mask that he had very briefly in the movie. You'd have the One-Step Changer Lockdown. Again, pretty good looking for a One-Step Changer. The Japanese version looks even better just with all the paint they put on it. You'd be able to get a different version of the One-Step Changer in the Age of Extinction Collection 6-pack. You'd be able to get the Power Battlers Lockdown. This would have been roughly deluxe sized. Its transformation would have been very simple, but this was made more for young Transformers fans. And he even broke into the world of Creo. In Creo, you could have gone the Lockdown Air Raid set that included a Lockdown Creon that actually has a removable battle mask. That's really nice, actually. Of course, if you didn't want the set, you could get the custom Creon Lockdown that would have included an accessory rack for the figure. The Grimlock Unleashed pack would have another version of Lockdown, this one with a different face paint. And then you could get the Construct Box Lockdown. This would have been essentially a Creon head atop a very simple Lego knockoff set that could transform, kinda. And you could also then go over and get the Construct Box Lockdown, which looked like that. Hey, you like Kellogg's? You like to eat cereal? What about a Lockdown pencil topper that came with cereal? You could have also gone the Titan Heroes Lockdown, 12 inches tall, and boy, that looks terrible. Hey, we got more, okay? What about the Hexbug? You get the Hexbug Nano Lockdown. Don't ask me how this actually relates to Lockdown, but you could also gone the Hexbug Warriors Lockdown, and that looks even less like it should be related to Lockdown, actually. But you want me to be honest with you? Do you want to know what I think is the best Lockdown to come out in 2014? The Q Transformers Lockdown. He's so cute! Oh, it only gets better in 2015! They gave him the animated paint job! Look at him, he's so angry! He still transforms. Oh man, I love the Q Transformers. I need to get Q Transformers. These guys are too good. They are too good for this world. Getting away from the movies for just one sec, 2014 also saw the release of the Battle Masters Lockdown. Battle Masters was basically Transformers Rock'em Sock'em robots. This is Lockdown. In 2015, there were more Q Transformers because you could get a small unpainted version of Lockdown as he appeared in the Mystery of Convoy Returns cartoon. Why are these so good? 2015 would also see the return of an old friend. The animated Lockdown was brought back in Transformers Adventure, their version of Robots in Disguise. And this is a slick paint job. I love the grays, purples, and blacks here. I also love how Takara saw the shape of Lockdown's chest and managed to work the Decepticon logo into it, kinda. This is one of the most unique color schemes we've ever had for Lockdown, but it's so striking. I'd love to pick this up one day. Okay, we've gone a bit crazy with Lockdowns. I want to take just one break from Hasbro for a bit. Let's talk about some third-party love, because believe it or not, Lockdown is one of the very few non-G1 characters to have some presence in third-party. Now, the first third-party Lockdown I would have known about was Mastermind Creations. They did a version of their reformatted Cyclonus into Lockdown, and he looks alright. He definitely works for an IDW Lockdown, from what little we saw of him there. It's just, I don't know, their Cyclonus has never been a great figure. I do think it looks better as Lockdown, but it also just doesn't play all that well. But then you got Perukill. This is the most screen-accurate movie Lockdown ever. An absolutely gorgeous figure. Probably the best masterpiece alike we've ever had for the Movieverse. That includes all the official Masterpiece movie figures. It amazes me how accurate this is to Age of Extinction Lockdown, and I think it is a gorgeous figure as a result. And of course, Iron Factory would give Lockdown a little bit of love. You can see here, he's not the most accurate Lockdown. He is still very much rocking the Iron Factory style, but a good solid figure nonetheless. Alright, that brings us up to date for third party. Let's get back to normal Transformers and the year 2016. In 2016, you could have gotten a new version of the animated Q Transformers Lockdown in a 3-pack with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Alongside that, you'd be able to find yourself this Q Transformers Lockdown. He looks like he needs a hug. Oh, and they made a stuffed animal. This is Nazo Lockdown, and he's so cute. Look at him. Why does he have a cat mouth? He has an upside-down cat mouth. Why, Lockdown? Why are you so cute? You could also get a couple of Lockdown statues in 2016. You could have gotten the Museum Masterline Lockdown, depicted here as his Age of Extinction robot mode alongside some of the dogs he had. You could have also gotten a Premium Bus Lockdown. This is Lockdown with his battle mask down, but you can see he has LED eyes, so they actually light up through the helmet. 2017 was actually a year of slowdown. He only had one. That was the Tiny Turbochanger Lockdown, which is still pretty cool. In 2018, you would have another Tiny Turbochanger Lockdown, this time in translucent plastic. You'd also have had movie The Best Lockdown. This is the Deluxe Class Age of Extinction Lockdown with a better paint job, a hook accessory, finally, and a new head sculpt to depict his battle helmet. Here's the weird thing, the movie The Best Lockdown was totally invalidated not even like a month later, because you would have had Studio Series Lockdown come out. This figure is far more screen accurate. Not a patch on Perukill, obviously, but when it comes to the deluxe scale, it's amazing they were able to get this robot mode out of that Lamborghini mode. It looks absolutely terrific, and I'll be honest, I kind of regret selling mine off because it was a very nice figure. And that was it! I want you to think about that. We went a whole decade where every year there was multiple Lockdowns released, and then after 2018, nothing. The guy had a decade of domination. They just kind of stopped releasing any. However, that does bring us to our newest Lockdown. In 2024, the Star Raider exclusive Walmart wave of Legacy United would see a new Lockdown. This Lockdown is a pretty extensive retool of Axle Grease or Scrap Hook, depending on which one you would like to refer to, and this is how you get your Lockdown eventually. I'll be honest, I'm not feeling it. It's a bit too stocky, the hook is there, but it's very tiny. Overall, it's kind of a sad return to form for Lockdown. When he was going to come back, I was expecting big and explosive. This is economic, sensible. At the end of this episode, I'm kind of just left asking questions. Lockdown was doing well. He could have become one of the A-listers of Transformers. I don't know why we hit the brakes on him so hard. He still had media appearances, don't get me wrong, but no toys, no featured roles, no major publicity. It's almost like Hasbro thought he was getting too big, or maybe there was some issue. Maybe Lockdown was just getting too overpopulated on the store toy shelves. In any case, though, I hope we get back to him getting more figures more regularly. Going back to that original Lockdown, it's still one of the most unique Transformer designs, figures, characters, and voices we've ever had. I think there's a reason why this character went from being made for a TV show to the main villain of the 4th Transformers movie so quickly. Lockdown is beloved. He is incredible. There's not another character quite like him. And it helps that, at the end of the day, his toys rock. So guys, I'll ask, do you have a favorite Lockdown? Is there a Lockdown that you're trying to track down? In any case, do you have any characters you'd like me to take a look at? We have a big list to go through, and of course I always have characters I'm interested in, but we're going to get to all of those guys eventually. Our next video is going to be our single most requested character yet, Jazz. And it's probably going to be a pretty big video, so I need to get started working on that now. Thank you guys for watching, and hey, we'll see what we get up to next time.